Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we are together with the founder of the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, Michael. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jean-Baptiste. Thank you for asking.
And we are in Toronto. What's going on in Toronto, the Chamber?
Well, thank you for coming to talk about the Chamber. Being the founder of the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce is a great honor and a privilege to be of service to Black Canadians across this great country. And, we are now basically in our 5th year of operation.
That's good.
And we are so excited to be of service on many levels to the people across this great country of Canada.
Awesome. And in terms of what's going on, the activities, how is the work of the Chamber in terms of reaching out to the Black community, especially in Toronto and across Canada?
Great, excellent question. I want to first start by thanking our board and our volunteers and our staff. They're doing an excellent job in making sure that we can actually deliver this message of economic development in Black communities across Canada. And in terms of what we're doing well right now, we're very, very proud that we are part of our funded program called the Elevate Black Business. It's actually doing exceptionally well, and we're helping entrepreneurs across Canada from...
How is the program going now?
It's going really well. We're very, very surprised by the success we're having. More importantly, the entrepreneurs in the program, the founders, we call them, they're really loving the program. They're excited, they're energized to really get their business to the next level. And we're very, very humbled to be part of their journey as we look at companies in technology, in the retail sector, the restaurant sector. There's so many companies, and I think Canada is sitting really well because the Black community's got some very, very important people doing some great things to really expand entrepreneurship across Canada.
So what's need to be done in order to join such kind of program going on?
Well, the good thing is, we have the program's called Elevate Black Business, and the website's called elevateblackbusiness.ca. So if you want to enroll in the program in the Chamber, for example, whether it's a business plan writing workshop, an ideation course you want to take with the Chamber, mentorship you're looking for, financial literacy, we have that as well. If you look for a mentor, right, that we have programs ideal for startups and also established firms. People remember that Black business have been here before you and I were here. So we want to make sure meet those that are established in the marketplace right now to encourage them to join the Chamber and make sure we can actually offer them the services they're looking for, whether it's a standard service to grow their business or whether it's a premier service to grow their business as well.
So when you are starting this kind of business from idea to the start, mostly there is the challenge of the capital. So how is the Chamber also trying to solve this kind of issue, enabling the entrepreneurs raise some funds, getting some grants or...
Great question, Jean-Baptiste. A lot of entrepreneurs, no matter what community they're from, go through the same growing pains, and they can all relate to having that idea and registering the business idea and make sure they start operating their business. One of the exciting things in a business is when you open that first bank account or get that company saying that you are now the owner or you're the now custodian of that company, whether it's a for-profit or a non-profit. So, of course, many companies go through the same challenges along the way, no different, looking at capital, looking at resources, looking at office space, and looking for clients. Very, very important to look for clients as well, and suppliers. So here at the Chamber, for example, we simply are a conduit to help you get through your business along the way in terms of providing advisor services, so you can definitely navigate the very, very confusing and competitive marketplace that people venture into along the way.
So in other words, it means like the Chamber, it's a home of solutions where you can be able to raise the funds, get some finance opportunities, get some coach, trainers, everything is there, right? Well,
yeah, and I'll maybe take a step back as to the purpose of the Chamber of Commerce. And I encourage anyone watching this day to, if you're in business, I want to encourage you to join your local Chamber of Commerce or Board of Trade, because we feel that's where a lot of companies really begin. The Chamber of Commerce really acts as a connector, a networking or organization that connects you to potential clients, suppliers, training and development. And the Chamber does really 4 things. Networking. Education, very, very important in terms of the programs we run, education. And of course, the trade missions, critically important to trade. The most important factor of a Chamber of Commerce is to help you trade and grow your product and business along the way. And we feel that by doing that, it's very, very important. But John Baptiste, the other thing the chambers do and do well is they advocate. If I go back to when the pandemic just came about, the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce was one of the first Black organizations to lobby the government for funding to support Black businesses across Canada. In fact, we had asked them for $165 million to help support Black-owned firms across Canada, because we recognize that many companies, not just Black, that fell below the threshold of a payroll of under $20,000 did not qualify for the CEBA loan fund at the time. The government took our information and learned from other groups as well, and together came up with what's called the Black Entrepreneur Program, where people can apply to those programs right now to grow their business. And we, for example, are one of the recipients of a grant that allowed us to train Black entrepreneurs across Canada.
And that is really interesting. And you can try to express a little bit more about the mission and the vision of the chamber, so that everyone could be able to know how he or she can fit in.
Great. And the main thing, the chamber, for example, when I first began with the idea of the chamber, I had to come up with a vision. The vision is so critically important.
Yeah.
And I felt there are two things that we need to do in the Black community. And that was simply this: to build wealth and to build trust. Okay. So that is our vision. I mean, building wealth is ongoing all the time, right? And the trust factor, we know that we're people that's been marginalized, even among ourselves. So we have to continue to work on the trust factor at all times to make sure that we continue to build the trust factor, and of course, build wealth for the community, our families, and also this great country of Canada.
And you mentioned like when you started. So when you go back,
yes,
can you give us how was the idea came out, and then you say like, let's start.
Yes, you know, starting the chamber has been a long life mission, you might say, and it didn't come about. So we incorporated the chamber on August 21st, 2018. So we're definitely entering into our fifth year right now, coming close to that time period. But the name, the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, I wrote on a piece of paper in the year 2013. And I thought we needed to find a way to really connect Black entrepreneurs across Canada and the community. But because I'm an entrepreneur running my business through the years, I did not jump on it right away. And it wasn't until a young lady, for example, her name is Celestine, who came to me and said, wanted to find out exactly, hey, how can we move this chamber along the way? And herself and then many other volunteers that came by helped us to finally launch the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce on August 21st, 2018.
Interesting.
Yes.
2018, the beginning of the chamber, I believe the beginning was tough. You had challenges, right?
You know, contrary, the beginning was a lot of fun. A lot of people were just willing to.
How was fun?
It was fun because we would gather in our groups. We're all volunteers.
Yeah.
And we'd gather. We'd basically begin to brainstorm how we can actually help the community grow. And also, our launch which happened on April 25th, 2019, we had over 600 people at the doors, and we'd only sent out 2 communications to the people. So we recognized early in the game that there's a great need for the service called the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce. And when I say it was fun, Jean Baptiste, I mean simply that people were just willing to give their time and energy along the way. And so, because they wanted to see better in the Black community as well. And yes, there have been a lot of great Black organizations across Canada, and they're still there to this day. And so we just want to be another option for the Black community members to be of service to as we go forward across Canada.
Yeah, still at the beginning, when you had this idea came out, were you like at home or were you at office?
Great question.
Friends speaking, and then you say something is.
You know what? If I go back a bit more, because I need to really let you understand exactly how the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce came to be. The mothership is called the National African Canadian Association. And in that, for example, I created what's called the 6 C's. And so I wanted to understand exactly how do we actually build a Black community, a national organization. At that point in time, Jean-Baptiste, you have to recognize there are very few Black national organizations across Canada. And so our mandate was to become a national organization that we can actually service the Black communities from coast to coast. Now, very important that I share with you the 6 C's and why they're so important. and where does the commerce fit into those 6 C's.
Yeah.
I felt that the first important thing is, what is the Black community? What is a community? Where does it live? How do you grow it, protect it as well? And the next C is culture. What is culture? What is Black culture? What is African culture, Caribbean culture from the Black perspective? I mean, how do we actually promote our languages and make sure that we are trading with that culture as well?
Yeah.
And of course, another thing that came about was creating centers so that we can actually go and congregate, network, trade, just basically learn about each other's cultural backgrounds as well. And of course, being in Canada, I encourage people to make sure to be a part of the political process. Civil was an important part of being engaged on a civic level as well. So being in politics, critically important for the Black Canadians to make sure that we are definitely having our voices heard across Canada. Now, the 5th C was called clans, or the state of family.
Exactly.
Family is very, very important. And although the last C I'll talk about, which is commerce, it was a third of the C's along the way. And so we start with the C of commerce so we can actually begin the journey of learning how to make sure connect the economic dollars to the Black communities across Canada.
That's really interesting.
Yes.
And during the journey, the people who joined the chamber, did you feel like they are motivating you, they are pushing you to go ahead? Did you feel like encouragement to keep it up?
Yes, and I go back to the very beginning. First, my family and my children, great supporters to making this vision come through, because oftentimes the people that will hear the ideas is their family along the way.
Exactly.
And I think one of the key things was also some critical people along the journey that would basically, they were quite supportive and basically make sure the journey of the chamber was going to come a long way as we go forward as well too.
Awesome. And in the process of the chamber's activities going on, I believe you have been working with other communities in and out of Black community. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
Great. One of the first things we did in the very beginning and continue to do is collaborate. And I'll go back to our mission, really. I spoke about the vision earlier. And the mission is really, it's four acronyms we go with, ENIC. And the first letter E stands for engagement. We have to engage other community members to make sure that, say, hey, how can we actually tackle this problem around what's ailing the community? Of course, the other piece of this N is navigate. Many people come to the chamber and not sure exactly where they want to go. So our main goal is to help them navigate the system, the ecosystem along the way, whether it's they're looking for funding, resources. The chamber does not give funding to anyone, but we can actually point you in that direction, whether it's through a financial institution, a credit union, a bank. We do that as well, right? And of course, the I, for example, inspire. Inspire. Right? We want to make sure inspire people to make sure, look at their entrepreneurial dreams and see how they can get to that point as well. And recently, there was a lady down in Hamilton who leads a very large Black organization, said, Michael, be sure to put in that particular E&I, put the C in there as well. Yeah. And she went on to say that the C stands for collaboration. Collaboration, yeah. And I put it into the actual acronym, ENIC. And so it's very important to collaborate, not only with your local communities, but also with the mainstream community as well too, and with the government. And finally, to come together to find a solution that makes sense for the benefit of the Black communities, but also of Canada as well.
Yeah. All these kind of great, interesting programs going on in the chamber, they are free of charge or they are paid? How is it looking?
Great, excellent. Now, the program that we're running currently called Elevate, Elevate Black Business, that's a sponsored program by the Canadian government. So that is totally free. You know, if in case you want to join the program, one has to simply go to elevateblackbusiness.ca and complete our intake form. And on the website, you'll definitely, there's information there to learn about exactly what it entails. So if you have a business idea, and I think every one of us have one or two ideas that we want to definitely launch into the ocean of great ideas, and maybe, who knows, that could be a great opportunity to maybe change the world, change your community, change your family, change your country as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
And during the conversation, you mentioned something like raising the funds around if I don't If I remember well, you called well, it's like 500,000. Was it a good start? Was it hard to raise it? How was that situation?
Great. So I know that the government has created some programs. One's called FACE. It's a black a loan that's to black owned companies across Canada. And if you are looking for a loan, for example, to maybe grow your company, maybe you can send an email to the chamber, and we can definitely point you to the people there. There are other groups across Canada that we can definitely make sure we connect you to, whether it's a loan for your business. There are many things that you're looking for. If you look for an investor, we can definitely see if there's an opportunity to maybe connect you with some of the investors that we are in connection with in the chamber as well.
And some of the other news is like, even if you have been denied a loan,
yes,
there is a chance that the chamber can join in to assist you raise some funds, some grant, right?
Yeah. Well, what we've done here is that the chamber is partnered with a few banks.
Yeah.
The Bank of Montreal and also CIBC. And we've created a wraparound services that we're allowing people to, if you're declined a loan from those institutions as an example, and you should maybe inquire there, or you can inquire by calling us as well. And so we have a partnership with the Black Opportunity Fund as well, where we actually, anyone who's declined from those two institutions as an example, will then be taken into our program. And they'll do a 90-day business workshop, whether it's on financial literacy, or enroll into our ABRA program, or our Propel Mastermind program. And the intent is, while you're in our program, is to make sure that we can definitely address some issues that may have caused you to be the client of that particular loan. So the intent now is that you will become stronger, financially stronger, and more confident in running a business. So thereafter, you can maybe return back to that bank, and maybe you now find some investors that may want to invest in your business. They can definitely fly higher than before.
Interesting. And as you have been in this nonprofit industry for quite some time,
yes,
in the years, how is it to look like in terms of the accountability, transparency, in terms of the use of funds received, and how this could be a big issue and matter in running a nonprofit?
Great. And I'll speak to the chamber.
Yep.
From the very beginning, as a nonprofit, we've had a very stellar board that keeps the operations of our team accountable. They take their jobs quite seriously, and as a founder of the organization, something that I definitely make sure that we are doing exceptional well to make sure to keep ourselves accountable, especially when you're handling sponsors' funds, or even someone paying a membership fees as well too. We are definitely, and in fact, we would not be getting funding if we were not operating above board. And our goal is to make sure we always be an example to anyone looking to make sure grow the business, especially a national organization where we're trying to make sure plant chapters across Canada. Critically important that we have a board that is definitely second to none. The board members come from various backgrounds and professions. CPAs, for example, we do have legal on our board as well to make sure that we are definitely in place and make sure we are definitely being practicing our fiduciary duties to ensure that we can govern the organization accordingly as well.
Awesome. And in Canada, Canada is a country of multicultural
yes,
communities, diversity, as well as there can be some systemic racism going on. And on the chamber side, how do you address this issue and make sure that you are trying to work on this and help the community?
Great. The Black community has been facing a lot of racism issues for a very long time period, not just hundreds of years, for a very long time period. And so the intent, of course, the chamber, for example, bringing in more current data now is that in terms of keeping the communities, let's say corporate Canada accountable, there's a big push right now for them to have diversity and supply diversity officers in place. And so the DEI initiative, for example, diversity, inclusivity, and to make sure people are more inclusive, it's there to make sure that we can definitely do a better job, that we can go from there. But I want to definitely answer your question directly to what you're asking about in terms of racism and so forth. Many of our clients, for example, will face racism at the bank. That's one of the most common concerns we hear all the time, is that my application was sound, am I being basically being profiled in a negative way that prevents me from getting that particular loan that I applied for?
Yeah.
And we recognize that. I mean, banks have admitted it, that's happened throughout the years, that they will definitely basically redline certain black applications. So by creating these loan fund programs, it's going to allow people to make sure, try to get beyond some of those issues along the way. But the systematic racism is definitely real, for sure. And what we try to do is make sure also be a place where we can definitely offer services and programs to corporations that are looking for that training and development, so they can also improve the services for their employees to better serve the black community across Canada.
Awesome. Does it mean to be a beneficiary of the Chamber's programs, you have to only be in the black community, or it's also inclusive, open?
Great. Now, to be a member of the Chamber of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, it's open to all. So if you want to do business or trade in the black community, what better place to go than to the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce? Very important to do that, for sure. Now, the program that we're running that's sponsored by the government, it's actually geared at black entrepreneurs only. Much like they create programs for Indigenous, women-led, and so forth, this program is created for black entrepreneurs. No different than youth programs along the way. So, but again, the Chamber is open to all persons. And again, if you're looking to trade with a black community, here's why I say that's a great place to go. The black community in Canada, for example, connects to, we're roughly 1.3 million black Canadians across Canada, from Africa, the Caribbean, Americas as well. So if you look to trade, we are connected to many cultural avenues across the globe. And so, in fact, the 1.3 million black Canadians that are here are connected to over 2 billion people around the world. So if you're looking to trade, let's say somewhere in Central Africa, East Africa, or West Africa, the people are here because we are basically what's known as a cultural chamber of commerce. Our board is diverse, our staff is diverse. And when I say diverse, diverse in our blackness, in our religion, our languages as well too. Yeah. And so we want to make sure always let that be our strength. I mean, diversity is the key to our success because, again, we get to a chance to understand your background and how we can definitely be of service to you. And here's another reason why you want to make sure to come to the Black Chamber of Commerce. If you're looking to trade with any particular mart in a location, we can actually do trade missions to those locations, because our goal is to make sure that people are trading with people. You know, oftentimes government trades with governments, but our goal is to make sure that the people are connected with the people on the ground locally where they come from as well too. And so we're looking at trade both ways. Maybe you see something that can actually do well in Canada from your home country, and you want to bring it here. We can help you do that, and vice versa. Maybe there's a product or service that you see in Canada can do well in your local country you come from, and we can help you do that as well too. Canada's got a lot of great resources from the provincial level, local level, federal level, and Canada wants to help you trade as well. And we just want to be an agent that can help Canada trade better with our black communities around the world.
That's really interesting in the chamber, and it looked like with the courage you have as the founder, I believe during the journey from the beginning until now you have had some ups and downs. You were down, you believe like you want to stop. Did you have such experience?
You know, the chamber, being an entrepreneur, it's a marathon race.
Exactly.
I'm sure there are times that we're running a race and that you just want to take a rest. Sometimes you want to quit. But you know, there's a poem that Guy's been through, and I wish I had it to read it with you right now, but it really says, when troubles are, and I'll find it for you and I'll read it to you, but I'll send it to you, because it talks about being low, but the intent is don't you quit, don't ever quit. Yeah. And because it's like when success might be so near that sometimes you realize to keep going along the way. So
did you have that moment?
I've had those moments many times.
Can you give us one of them? Like you say, like, you know what, this is too much.
Well, you know, the thing is, I believe that God does not put dreams idly to people. Your gifts are your gifts. And I mean, I spend many times praying. I'm a praying man, and it's important to make sure praying and be thankful for the gifts you have. Yeah. Critically important. And like anything in life, I mean, I always measure things with a framework called the SWOT analysis that everyone should be doing in their new business. Yeah. The SWOT is so important to do because, you know, like anything, you have your strengths. And then, of course, you have your challenges and weaknesses.
Yeah, give us that moment where you fade down. How
Definitely.
How it look like?
And you know what? And I'll go more to the opportunities are also very plenty. But also the other part is the external factors called the threats.
Yeah.
The threats.
Yeah.
The threats are so critically important, and the threats kind of go with the weaknesses at times, because if you don't have good security around your organization, you can definitely fall along the way.
How was those kind of threats you have had, or those down moments you have? I want to have this personal.
Well, you know, the thing is, as the founder of this organization called the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, as a founder, I mean, I've gone through a few cannons being thrown at myself, but with the grace of God and also my family and my friends and a strong board and strong alliance around the chamber, we're able to make sure, protect it and make sure it's not being criticized in a particular manner along the way. Because you see, when you create a black organization, a national black organization to connect black people in this country, not easy to do.
Yeah.
But the way to make it happen is they have to involve a team, build a team along the way, and make sure that the people on your team are really in it for the community and not for self-gain. Sometimes those threats will come from the inside as well as a company, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit. You have to always continue to measure the quality of your employees that are working for the organization.
Exactly.
And not because the person has the good intent to move things forward. Skill is critically important as well.
Yeah.
Skill, knowledge, critically important to growing any organization.
Yeah.
And one advice I'd say to anyone watching from a business standpoint, when you recognize something is wrong in your company, fix it and fix it fast.
Yeah.
And make sure, fix it not on the external response, but fix on the fact that if you want to have success, make sure that you're internally and externally responsible.
Yeah. Would you share as one of the experience you have had where you fade down, where you see someone in the community let you down? How was it look like, and how did you try to be positive and then rise from it?
You know, along the journey, we've had great volunteers. And we've seen some volunteers who came on with the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not sure if they're here to build or destroy.
Yeah.
But as a leader, you have to be able to decide exactly that it's not a popularity contest. Leadership is not a popularity contest. And if you want to preserve something long term, you have to take those hard decisions along the way. And sometimes you may have to face the media and deal with that head on as well too. But if you're running a company, know that if you're not steering that horse, the horse may just steer you.
Exactly. And I believe from the beginning of the chamber, right now the chamber is still impacting the community. I believe there is still a long way to go.
Yes, you know what, I must say, Jean-Baptiste, I mean, in the race of life, the chamber is still on its first lap. But we need to find ways to really start looking at what are the impacts on black community, not just small business, but the entire black community. We're part of the global ecosystem as well too. I mean, things that affect us that we need to start having conversation about. Things like technology, climate, clean tech. Oftentimes, a lot of black countries, although we're not polluting at the highest level, we're the recipients of other countries polluting at a high level. So we need to ask ourselves as entrepreneurs exactly what can we do to make sure improve products and services to better service all communities, because right now this global economy is definitely, it's one big fishbowl that we're all in, and we need all hands on deck to really find ways to really improve the services across the globe as well as Canada.
Interesting. And I believe as the founder, on your personal experience, you are not only working on the chamber. You might have some other activities going on. So we want to know a little bit more about your other side hustle of the chamber.
Good. You know, the colors behind me, as you're talking, it reminds me of why I got involved in the chamber, and it goes back to a man that I believe the most impactful man in the last 500 years in the black community especially, Marcus Garvey. And if you look at me, the colors here are called the African colors that basically he actually created back in the 20s. And so he believed in economic development and self-reliance. Same thing is here as well too. And as an entrepreneur, you have to make sure to try to balance the community, balance your family, and balance yourself as well and your business.
And you have the family. Can you tell us about your family and how the family has been helping you out throughout the beginning of the chamber and the other hustle?
Yes, definitely. So the family, and you know what, one of the things that as I do more business in the community as well, my family operates more in the background. They're the hardest working people. You may not see them. They'll volunteer, but they'll be looking and thinking. They live and breathe chamber 24/7 as well, because they want to also help the Black community. But they recognize as well too that many darts, many cans will come at myself.
Yeah.
And so as we move forward as well, so we've learned to make sure that we do the work, keep a low profile, and just make sure that community is being put forward as first to really grow the community, and without a doubt. Now, my main hustle, which as we call it, right? And you know, I don't believe in side hustles. And if someone has a side hustle, our goal is to make sure that you turn it into your main hustle, right?
Exactly.
To be that CEO, that founder of your company, to make sure that it's well registered, and you definitely are spending most of your time in your core. My main core, for example, I have a very extensive background in supply chain management, and over 25 years working with multinationals across Canada, the USA, and Europe as well. And so what it taught me is that in supply chain management, collaboration is critically important. You must work with other groups to make sure things are working well. So one of the things we believe, and if I may talk about my sector for a second, is that in the transportation sector, we believe that everything happens by a truck.
Exactly.
The shoes you're wearing, how to get to your house. The camera, how to get to your house. So the mode of transport is critically important, whether it's by road, air cargo, ocean cargo, warehousing, rail, even pipeline, dog sled, foot as well. Transportation has been a very important cornerstone. And I'll tell you right now that during the pandemic, the transportation was a major factor. And my company was one of the recipients of that, but did very well during the pandemic, helping to make sure to get the essential products to the community. So again, I'm very blessed to have been in that sector, and you know, it's important that it's been able to put bread on my table, and our goal is to make sure that we can actually show other people to make sure get into the sector that they want to get into, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's basically a service you want to do, or logistics and supply chain management. The chamber wants to make sure that show you exactly how we can help you get to that next level as well.
And running the chamber, running the transport company, how do you balance with your family?
You know, great question.
Too much work. Eh?
It's a lot of work, but you know, God gives tasks to people that are busy.
Yeah.
I believe, and the key thing is a team. Having a team in place, a competent team, a hardworking team, and our team are not your typical 9-to-5 team. Our team works beyond those hours. They work on weekends. They recognize, and on the chamber side, as an example I'm talking about, having a quality leader in the operations. For example, we've had past presidents. We have an executive director. We have a board that works night and day to make sure that we are definitely going forward, and that takes the pressure off myself as a founder. So it allows me to make sure, share the vision, the mission, and find opportunities that we can definitely uncover along the way. So that makes my job a lot easier, having quality, skilled people that are passionate about serving the Black community. Now, in my company, for example, I have team members that are skilled in the sector as well, doing well. Balancing my time, you know, I spend my time buying domain names. That's my downtime.
Yeah.
But and more seriously, you know, taking time away, and my family are quite conscious that we have to make sure schedule fun into time.
How do you have fun? Like you as a person, out of the busy work job.
Well, you know, one of the things I've done for the last...
You got the movies, the gym, you listen to music, got dance, out of the family. How does it look like? Well,
you know, one of the things I've done for the last 18 years, on every second Wednesday, I belong to a social group, a men's group called the Lions Circle. Mm-hmm. And every second Wednesday, without fail, more than not, I'm at those meetings. Mm-hmm. And I don't go to meetings, I feel not as good. But in terms of social balance, of course, means we travel.
Yeah.
We definitely travel to the Caribbean. Some people say I go to Jamaica too often. That's my home country.
Yeah.
But I've traveled to other countries, whether it be to Europe or whatever it might be. But and also traveling across Canada. I mean, recently, and it was business related, but whenever I travel, I always take some time to make sure, spend a lot of time learning the city on a local level. So, for example, we're in PEI.
So do you recall your best travel experience? You still feel like you want to do it again?
You know what? I mean, I've not done the best travel experiences yet. I mean, some people have climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and visit Mount Logan in the western part of Canada.
Yeah.
But those things, and one of the things I've done for fun through the years, I mean, in my past, I did a lot of speed skating. And so now I do casual skating now, right? And so it's always been one of my great pastimes. In my back of my car, for example, you see my golf clubs during the summer months. But in the winter months, you'll see my hockey skates at all times, ready to make sure if there's a piece of ice somewhere, I'll definitely want to go out there and skate for a little while. And being in Canada, for example, I've immersed myself in the culture of Canada. And but going up through the years, played a lot of sports. I mean, played baseball at a very high level, for example. One of my greatest moments was actually as a young person, was trying out for the Florida Marlins baseball team.
Awesome.
And you know, Jean-Baptiste, I realized by going to those camps, those open camps, I realized how good I was not at baseball. And the reason why I say that, because there are people there that were just with phenomenal skills. Yeah. They did testing, 3 things they tested on really, was your speed. Yeah. How fast can you run? The next thing, of course, is your arm strength. I mean, how hard can you throw that ball? Yeah. And the third, of course, is that how good is your bat?
Exactly.
And so just with that alone, those experiences have allowed me to be humbled by the experience. And it's taught me to go after what I want to go after. And you're going to do one of 2 things. You're going to succeed sometimes, and you're going to fail sometimes. Yeah. But the lessons you take from those opportunities will prepare you for the next journey in your life.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And when you are doing your free time activities, having fun, do you feel like you miss your chamber, transport company?
You know,
sometimes it's
you know, as an
nice
entrepreneur,
to be out of this kind of busy job and then feel free and open to the.
You know, I think the pure entrepreneurs will probably agree with me that you never turn your mind off. It's always going. It's always thinking about the next opportunity. For myself, I'm thinking about ways to improve the processes in my companies that I operate, to make sure that increase the revenue as well, increase the social responsibility. So your mind is never off. Unfortunately, an entrepreneur cannot turn their 9 to 5 doesn't exist in entrepreneur world at all. It's like the weekend sometimes or the holidays are a great time to really think and reflect. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, for example, my mentor, Norm Plummer, he's passed on now. Yeah. He believed that it's very, very important to have a mentor. And I still have mentors to this day. But what he taught me during that time period, having mentors and having partnerships along the way can allow you to take quantum leaps, to avoid having to learn everything yourself, and also to trust in other people's abilities that can do the job as well. But always, even though the trust factor is there, always make sure that the accountability factor is always there as well.
Exactly. And I believe when you are having fun in your free time,
yes,
it's one of the ways to have your self-care, your well-being, wellness, and your mental health. How is that helping you out about your mental health?
Yes. You know, mental health is an important factor. Last summer, for example, we went to Niagara Falls like we do every year. Yeah. And but rarely do we go down to the bottom of the falls.
With the chamber or with the family?
The family. Went to the falls, and rarely do we go down to the bottom of the falls. So this time, so we're going to go down to the bottom of the falls. Long lineup, so we decided to wait. We're going to have an experience. Mm-hmm. We did that, and we did go-kart racing as well by Niagara Falls. And it was actually a very fun day. And thanks to my children and family for planning it.
Yeah.
If they didn't plan, I would not have gone. But I'm learning how to plan fun into my calendar a lot more. So one of the things as an entrepreneur, I recognize that you have to schedule fun, especially when you're a middle-aged person as well, and there's so many demands on your time. You have to schedule fun and also time to to take care of yourself on a personal level as well.
And also this mental issue is a big also problem in the Canadian community, right?
Yeah, you know, mental health has been a major topic that's been coming up. And as an entrepreneur, I always say two things. As an entrepreneur, two things that one should do is actually, when they first enter business, is make sure you have a financial plan, a business plan to be more precise. And also make sure you have a good counselor that you can return to at times. It is often said that the stress level of an entrepreneur is equal to that of a race car driver. If you can think of a race car driver holding on really, really tight, right? Sometimes entrepreneurs are just holding on so tight, trying to make things in balance, paying the bills to make sure that the lights are on, paying the internet. They can all relate to those factors. Getting a loan, calling the bank to make sure, request more time. These things the struggling person understands, and I'm sure any person who's made success will understand that as well, that we've all struggled along the way. Some more than others, some may be very fortunate, but the reality of the entrepreneur is he or she is going to struggle. But the reason why they do it, and only 10% of any population are entrepreneurs, are successful entrepreneurs. Many have a side hustle idea, and we want to make sure if you have a side hustle idea or a vision or a mission that you want to create to make sure create a product or service, the Chamber wants to help you to get those steps out of the way. And so I feel it's important really to make sure, create a space to help them on a one-to-one basis and also a nationwide basis so they can grow their companies. And more importantly, balance off that stress factor that may come. And if I go back to the mental well-being a second, there's a story that I always share. One of my good clients, a mid-sized firm, maybe around 10 years ago, I remember going in to speak to this man on around Christmas, maybe it was around 2 days before Christmas, to drop off holiday greetings, for example, and thank him for his business. And so we had a good coffee in his boardroom, and meeting went well. Awesome. Now, around mid-January I called and asked for John. And I was told that, Michael, unfortunately, John's no longer with us. And I'm thinking, how can the president no longer be with you? And as I basically dug further into asking, what is that? What happened to John? Where is John? Michael, unfortunately, John committed suicide. And so to me, we never know what a person's going through.
Exactly.
His company seemed very, very successful, but there were demons he was carrying deep within his heart.
Outside, but the inside.
You never see the inside, right? And so one of the things we offer at the Chamber of Commerce, for example, is definitely, we have a lot of psychologists that will come in and also train entrepreneurs exactly just to make sure that it's okay not to be okay along the way.
I know that song, huh?
Definitely, and I think it's important, and so even in my personal life as well too. I'm always positive. Rarely am I very low, but I recognize that you need a good circle of friends and people around you that care about you on a personal level as well too. People you can talk to. The key thing is to make sure you have someone that you can talk to, that you can pick up the phone and give them a call.
So it's good to speak up.
It's good to speak up as well too, and I've got some long-standing friends for over 40 years that knows me in different ways. I can pick up the phone and call them 3 o'clock in the morning and have a conversation, and vice versa. So it's important to really have a strong network of support around you, and sometimes you have to make sure to speak out what's bothering you as well too.
Interesting. And on the side of the chamber,
yes,
right now, what do you think is missing to go forward?
Oh wow!
And they need to work on it.
Well,
together in a collaboration, as a team, as a community, on your personal level as well.
You know what? We had the opportunity of speaking with one of the wealthiest person in the Black community recently, and he gave some advice. He said, in order to build strong team chemistry, you need to build a project together and do it well, because that's going to increase the collaboration among the team members along the way and the trust factor as well. And you asked the question, what does the Chamber need at this point in time? To the potential funders that are watching this particular video right now, we need supporters, we need sponsors, we need partners that believe in the cause of helping Black-owned companies grow. Because the reality is this, the Black community is connected to all communities. And one of our first sponsor was a beer company that basically made a donation to us. They saw what we were doing, they loved what we were doing, and said, here, here's a small donation to help along the journey to make sure that what you want to do to help folks along across Canada. But what is missing right now, I think
the presence also in the across Canada.
Yeah, I think right now across Canada is the awareness piece. People are still, we're only 4 or 5 years in right now, and many are saying that we don't know about the Canadian Electric Chamber of Commerce, and many think that it's been here for a very long time period. So exactly. I think what's missing is more marketing, more awareness, more education on the purpose of chambers of commerce. Because the reality is this, Jean-Baptiste, I'll tell you, many forums I've gone into, and I've asked the room, how many of you are a member of Chamber of Commerce or Board of Trade? And when you look around the room, for example, if there are 100 people in the room, maybe 5, 10 hands go up. So part of our responsibility here at the Chamber of Commerce is to make sure that we can actually educate the general population as to the reason why they need a particular Chamber of Commerce. So it's not that, it's becomes a common place to make sure going to if you're looking at doing a business. And you see, one of the things about Chambers of Commerce as well, too, it's not a competition. Many of them recognize that they have to grow their geographical areas. But here's where we're different. Because we're a cultural Chamber of Commerce, we have no geographical boundaries except for Canada itself. Mm-hmm. So we get a chance to open up chapters all across Canada, whether it's in the Yukon, Newfoundland, Labrador, for example, Quebec, Atlantic Canada.
Of Canada.
Exactly. We can definitely do, and we want to make sure plant opportunities where Canada's the population is going to grow. At the Canadian Electric Chamber of Commerce, for example, we're asking more mature questions like, what is the state of the Black community 50 years from now, 100 years from now in Canada? What is the state of our Black population? Is it growing or not growing? And how do we actually increase the growth of our Black population in this country? All the groups are growing at a faster rate than we are. So then, of course, we need to make sure, speak with the governments, and finally, to make sure we increase the allotment to allow more countries to do from the Black countries in Africa and the Caribbean to make sure they come here more often as a gateway. And of course, we know there's a lot of talented people, middle-class people, and people that are doing well in the Caribbean, in Africa, in the Americas, that just needs an opportunity to make sure they have a chance to come here. And it's our duty to make sure that we open that gateway and let Canada know that there's great talent around the world, and we are just simply a gateway that can help you get that talent into Canada as well. So we're very excited about ways that we can grow the chamber and make sure spread the awareness to make sure that we do trade missions as well, to make sure that people understand why they should actually be a part of a Chamber of Commerce as well. Critically important.
Yeah, there is a still long journey to do, and collaboration is also key to contribute to the journey. And on your personal level, what do you think is missing in terms of your lifestyle, your leisure time?
You know what?
Maybe your secrets so that your colleagues, your family can know.
You know what? I'm very blessed, I must say. I'm very blessed. Sometimes we look at the negative factors in our lives and we think wow, life's not good. But when I look at the blessings that I've had during my life, for example, I'm very, very blessed and very thankful for all things I've been given. But in terms of leisure time as well, too, more time is needed, of course, to not be at work and better life-work balance, right? Mm-hmm. There are times when my laptop must stay in the car or stay at home, right? Or more important, the cell phone must stay in the car. But the thing basically is that finding balance, not always easy, but I realize that what I do to make sure balance as well, I get up earlier in the mornings. Those critical hours between 6 and 9 o'clock, or 6 and 8 o'clock, are sometimes your own alone time.
Yeah.
And so between 6 and 8 in the morning, you recognize that the phone's not going to start ringing until 8 o'clock. And so you need to do as much as you possibly can to at least get the work out early. And of course, meetings will come. But in terms of balance, it's important to really find ways to maybe also leave work early and make sure to schedule my time that I want to do things as well, too.
And within the chamber, what do you think your colleagues, the people you work with on a daily basis, don't know about you?
Well, the one thing is that I am resilient. I am tenacious. I will not quit. I'm a leader, but I'll also inspire you to lead as well, too. And they may know some of those things. Some say I'm stubborn, headstrong. Those are things that are also qualities of strength as well, too.
They miss the fun part?
Well, the fun part is, the fun part, having fun at work is important. Building community is important as well too. But I do have my friends where I spend time with them where it's not about chamber or community. It's just about Michael being Michael and them being themselves along the way, and being silly. and so those moments I look forward to along the way. One of the things that people say that often is that Michael's a visionary. And I'll tell you, the reason why I'll accept that, because I still believe there's a yearning in my heart to find ways to connect our Black peoples of the world, or African peoples of the world. Being apart for so many years, hundreds of years, being divided is something that I recognize that by being the best Michael I possibly can take care of myself, I can definitely be a good ambassador for African values, for Caribbean values, for Canadian Black values, so that people can realize that Black is beautiful in all its forms.
Exactly.
Black is also brilliant in all its forms. And so I want to be a beacon. And one of the things that strengthens me, I look to the people that are doing great work across Canada. Men and women that I've seen are basically just pillars in this great country. The men like Denham Jolly, the West Hall, the Michael Lee Chins, they've done a great job in terms of, being steadfast in their business and being very strong anchors to be the example for us to follow. I mean, yesterday leaders of people like Lincoln Alexander and Charles Roach, and of course, Bromley Armstrong. These men were strong men that basically brought the community forward as well, too. And of course, behind every man, there's a strong woman as well. And beside him is a strong woman as well. Yeah. And of course, Dr. Gene Augustine, for example, is still in the community, without a doubt, for example. So many people that have come in the community that's done great work. So, and I look further even beyond that as well to see exactly the leaders whose shoulders we stand on. The Marcus Garvey, the Kwame Nkrumah, the Jomo Kenyattas as well, too. Yeah. The Fidel Castros, I may say, as well, too, because these people were there for Black liberation when no one else was there for Black liberation as well.
Senegal, there is also Sedat Senghor.
Sedat Senghor, okay, definitely, for sure, Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's like Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, in Ghana.
Definitely, for sure. So, these men, and then, of course, Nelson Mandela. And so there may have been great leaders that have come before. So I can't afford to get tired knowing the work's not complete. Yeah. So when the time, so I'm empowered. I'm fueled by the ancestors. I'm energized by my children, and I'm definitely encouraged by the future as well.
Awesome. And when you try to recall in your daily activities at work,
yes,
what do you miss doing?
What do I miss doing?
Probably you used to do something, then because of being busy.
I miss playing tennis. And I miss coaching soccer. I miss coaching soccer. That's what I miss. There was a time when my kids were young. I'd be on the soccer pitch, not 2, not 4, but 7 days a week. Coaching my son's team, my daughter's team. As it got better, of course, I recognized that they needed stronger coaching. I enrolled in a soccer coaching course to see exactly if I can increase my knowledge of the game. Yeah. But of course, my knowledge is growing slower, and the skill level, they're growing a lot faster. So now that to now become...
And also still at home, what the other thing do you still miss at home? You still miss doing at home?
Oh, I don't miss cleaning at home. That's one. I don't miss cleaning at home, for sure, right? And during the pandemic,
miss cooking?
Don't miss cooking at all. But I don't. I must
something maybe you used to cook and then.
Well, home life has been pretty good overall. The other day, for example, I made an oxtail. Yeah. And it was the first time I made oxtail. I've always enjoyed the meal. Yeah. And I thought, let me buy this oxtail and make it for the first time. And you know what? All my all the memories of cooking came back to me as well. Seeing my aunt, my mom, my grandma in the kitchen as well. So I just knew how to do it. I had fun doing it as well. Of course, I call a few persons and say, hey, how do I actually make this oxtail? Yeah. And I made it, and it was good, and I licked all my fingers.
I feel like they can hire you as a new chef of that.
But I made it very clear that I'm not one of the kings or queens in the kitchen in our families. Yeah.
And at work, in your office, with your colleagues,
yes,
is there any fun thing you miss doing with them?
Well, you know, one of the things I always do, we must celebrate all birthdays.
Yeah.
And you know the reason why? It's actually a chance for me to have a piece of cake.
Yeah.
So when the person walks into the office, for example, that person should be celebrated on their birthday.
Yeah.
You know, now for my birthday, I try not to be there to be embarrassed or celebrate in that way.
Yeah.
But I feel that every employee should get a chance to be celebrated on their birthday. Whether it's you know, even for example, we'll definitely do things among the employees. We might be going out on a social to make sure that we gather and make sure that we are building that team building, that bonding as well too. That's required.
Exactly.
Very important.
On a family level as well.
Yes.
I believe there is something probably you wanted to do or you want to do, but you still you are not doing it yet because of being busy with different things.
You know what? I mean, the one thing that I need to do and must do and have to do like in the next 6 months to a year is really go home for the first time. And when I say home for the first time, I mean...
Home, what do you mean?
Going to Africa for the first time.
Which country?
Any country. Doesn't matter which one. I need to just return, you know, especially being a Pan-Africanist.
So how are you going to do that in terms of selection? Will you take the globe and then turn it around and then where you point in Africa will be the country, or you can ask your children or your friends just to get an idea?
You know what? I mean, I've always felt that I'd probably go back to West Africa first.
West.
I think because...
Francophone, Anglophone?
Because, I mean, I'm not very good in the Francophone world right now. So, I mean, I think I'll have to wait to go to Senegal or to go to Cameroon. But I think maybe Ghana or Nigeria, if I was to pick a country. But if I'm traveling in Ethiopian Airlines, most likely I'll be going back to Ethiopia first, right? Yeah. So, but it doesn't matter which one I go to. I think just being able to really travel and traverse the entire continent and to really understand exactly who am I, who are our people, you know, what is the diversity of Africans as well too, and there are kingdoms that still are, that have just basically been interrupted momentarily. Yeah. And just really understand exactly that. Just to return back home would be great for me personally, and I just know that the first thing I'll be doing for sure is that I'll be kissing the ground when I return.
So it means like you are trying to give a hint to your co-workers, your family, to buy a free ticket to Africa, and then say, boom.
Definitely. And doesn't matter which country, I'll definitely be there right away for sure to make sure to and the reason why, and it's to return the energy of my ancestors that's been in me for the last 400 or 500 years. For those that were transported from the continent to these, you know, to the Caribbean as an example. And so for me, it's returning the ancestors that stand behind me who were not returned. So when I return, for example, I'll be returning with 20 plus 25 generations of people that came and survived and thrived in the Caribbean. And the one thing I recognize through Marcus Garvey's journey as a Pan-Africanist, did you know that he never visited the continent not once? But the African spirit is so strong in his soul that tells you that if you're an African no matter where you are on this planet, in the world as well, in the universe. So the opportunity for me is to return home and make sure that I can definitely connect with the mothership, with the motherland, and understand better who I am, so we can definitely continue to build bridges to make sure that the two Africas, the mother and the diaspora, connect. And if you look at the logo behind my head here, for example, you'll see two abstract lines. If you look at them closely, it's really Mother Africa and child yearning to connect to each other. And when the two Africas connect, this world will be at peace.
At peace. Awesome. That's really a good story. So the people in the community, in the chamber family, so they know now what's your dream. And I believe you have learned in your life journey, you have acquired a lot of skills. So I want to know, like, what has been the lesson so far you have learned in your life? What life has taught you?
Great question. One of the things I've learned is that I've always prayed that God give me something that will make me great. But in the gifts that I have received, I think it's a gift of knowledge of self, number one, and also knowledge to reconnect the Afro people of the world, the Africans of the world. So that's what I've learned about myself. And people ask me oftentimes, Michael, what is your why?
And what's your why?
And I remember the first time I was asked, I couldn't answer the question, but I went away and I thought about it. And my why is simply this. It is to reconnect the African peoples of the world. That is my why. So the Afro-Brazilians, the Afro-Colombians, the Afro-Peruvians, as an example. What I've learned from these groups as well, that they go through the same economic struggles that we go through here as Black Canadians. You know, the Afro-Mexicans as an example. One of the shocking facts that I learned was that there are as many Afro-Mexicans as there are Black Canadians. There's around 1.3 Black Canadians. There's around 1.2 Afro-Mexicans. But the reality is that do these groups have any connection, trade, awareness, cultural exchange? So it's my duty, my purpose, to find ways to bridge those communities to make sure we can definitely exchange culture, exchange our history. And because at the end of the day, I realize that whether you're in the Latino community, the Francophone community, the English community, or the traditional African communities, the commonality is that the African people are one people.
One people. And what Canada has taught you so far?
Canada's taught me tolerance and patience, but also taught me to also hold your fellow man accountable. I mean, Canada, for example, it has stains on its hands. You know, the way that Canada's treated its First Nations through the years, it's not a very, very positive light. And we still see those issues across Canada in terms of our First Nations, women going missing all the time. So what Canada's taught me is that to be authentic, to be accountable, but also to make sure that you be a friend to your neighbor as well, with tolerance, patience, and kindness. And maybe the best thing Canada's taught me, especially with countries that are developed and so forth, is that we have to find ways to always to forgive and to apologize.
To apologize. And I believe the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce also has taught you Caprop for a lot of lessons so far.
You know, the 4 words in Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce all embodies who I am. I am Canadian, I am African, and I am Jamaican as well. The blackness in Black Chamber, it is who I am, the culture of our people. Find ways to make sure connect and celebrate our greatness in being Black people, critically important. And of course, Canadian Black Chamber, a chamber is a house, a belonging, a home of people. And in that home, for example, we trade commerce. Commerce is the main currency in the Chamber of Commerce, for sure. But we recognize, above all that, is that because we're a cultural Chamber of Commerce, we have to always be measuring trust factors. Because we know as Black people, sometimes that trust is missing because we didn't get to this point of being divided if some did not sell us out, you might say, right? But at the same time, we have to rebuild that trust that our ancestors have. So myself, for example, I'm from the Caribbean, you're from Africa, then how can we actually build that bond so that we become one?
One.
You know, you're a Francophone, I'm Anglophone, based on the conquering countries that conquered our continent.
Yeah.
But how do we get beyond that? So we have to rebuild that trust factor first.
Exactly.
And sometimes when you rebuild trust, you have to open up the layers and look at the wounds that have to be healed. We talked about mental wellness earlier. The Black person is carrying a lot of emotional baggage that basically has been a lot of trauma, you might say, right? But we're resilient. We're resilient people. And we continue to thrive and rise and conquer our fears. But it's important really to build that trust factor. We have to really begin to have a conversation, it's a dialogue. And you know what? The wealth part of it will come automatically once you build that trust factor.
That's really pretty interesting. And I believe also the family so far has taught you a lot of lessons since your marriage started and still going on.
You know, in every family, whether personal or business or otherwise, and I'm sure I don't know any perfect families out there in the world, but when challenges come, the test is not to always discard, but how do you fix the challenge that may come? And I'll go back to the point of more so on the business side of things. Sometimes you got to make those hard cuts. Sometimes when it comes to community building now, you have to be a bit more patient and build, because you recognize a community, it's not just a job. It's what protects the entire Black culture. And you're going to see that same person at various events, weddings, funerals, gatherings along the way. So it's important for the community to recognize that as we move forward, especially the leaders in the community, we have to find ways to always uplift each other, but also support each other as well. And so one of the things that I'm very, very eager to do is find ways to make sure that how can I support the Black leaders across Canada so they can do their jobs a lot better. Because again, leadership is a very lonely opportunity, especially when you're carrying the mantle, the vision, and you're holding it strong to your heart. So one of the things you'll see in the near future is creating a space where leaders can retreat and have conversations and talk about exactly what really is troubling me this day. We're not going to trade secrets, but we can definitely talk about the experiences and how we can uplift each other to make sure we become a better leader for the community. Because if you're leading well, it's going to allow me to lead well as well too. And if I'm low and you can get me pumped up to a certain level, so Black leaders need each other, because it's like rowing a particular boat.
Yeah.
Every person must row in unison.
Yeah.
And if one is off, that boat will not go as fast as it's meant to go.
Yeah. We need to live like a family, right?
Yes, definitely, for sure, you know.
And as we conclude our great, interesting interview, and because you mentioned you are from Jamaica,
yes,
I believe in your free time,
yes,
at work, at home, with your friends, you test some Jamaican music, cuisine, and everything, right?
Well, you know what? Since you went on the Jamaican topic, I wish you weren't going to go there, but since you're there now, right? I'll talk about some of my aspirations and things that I'm working on beyond the chamber and beyond work as well. You see, to me, it's about legacy landmark pieces that we're working on creating along the way. One of the things we're working on right now, Jean-Baptiste, is to create what's called the Garvey Prize. Yeah. And the Garvey Prize, if all goes well, will be done next year, celebrating excellence in the Black world. And we're so blessed to have Dr. Julius Garvey, sponsoring and basically blessing this particular prize named in the honor of his father. And so we're looking to do that very, very well. That will be in Kingston, Jamaica, if all goes well in Black History Month in 2024. So that is really exciting. We're trying to make sure that we can find those leaders that we can actually amplify. People are doing great work in the Black communities around the world that's helping the Black community, but also, more importantly, helping humanity as well.
Awesome. And while celebrating the Jamaican culture, I believe in your car you might have some music from Jamaica, right?
Well, you know, in my car, and I shouldn't say this, in my car you'll probably hear country music at times. Yes, the reggae's there all the time. But, you know, I tend to sing along songs, and you probably want to hear me sing in the car and not open in the office or whatever it might be. So, but I definitely, like most Jamaicans, I do enjoy my definitely Jamaican foods for sure. My favorite meal is definitely rice, not rice and peas, but it's actually ackee and saltfish and white rice. That's a favorite meal in Jamaican culture, right?
Awesome. That's really interesting. I believe I need to also test that kind of Jamaican cuisine and learn more the cuisine, because I have not yet experienced that.
Well, you know, let's make a deal. I'll take you to a Jamaican restaurant, and you take me to a Rwandan restaurant that we can find as well, too, here in Toronto.
Rwandan restaurant or East African restaurant, or I think that would be good, right?
Definitely, definitely. And we can definitely find by looking at our Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, Rolodex of companies that we have, and we can roll it in and just go and have a nice bite together.
And to sum up, if anyone wants to check on the chamber, I think there is social media handles, website, right?
Definitely, for sure. And the website, the main website, of course, is blackchamber.ca. And if you want to send information to our office, email info@canadianblackchamber.ca. And of course, you'll find us on Twitter, Instagram, of course, also Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So we definitely want to inspire you to really, grow your business. And we want to be part of that success. And you're going to find the people at the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce are very, very helpful, and they want to be part of your journey. Because when you succeed, we all succeed.
Thank you very much, Michael, for joining us today.
Thank you.